Sledson listeners, welcome back to the next episode of the Sledson podcast. As always, appreciate you guys being here, regardless of what platform you are tuning in on. And be sure to check out some of the links in the description. We've got link to some Sledson merch, link to some discount codes from all of our sponsors, as well as if you're interested in partaking in the Sledson Brotherhood, there's a form in the description below that you can fill out. And if you're a good fit, then we'll schedule a call. This episode, we are kicking it back to a virtual episode, and hopefully we don't have any technology issues like we did on the last virtual one. So hopefully we got those things figured out. So for those of you that are listening and not watching, I have just myself on for this episode with our guest. So none of the other Sledson boys are partaking in this episode. So without further ado, our special guest for tonight is Mr. Levi Green. Dude, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, good, Tyler. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. Like I was just telling you before we hit record, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here and do this with us, man. I'm glad it finally came full circle to get you on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. So, obviously I've got a variety of questions for you. So let's kind of just dive right into this. So, you're pretty well known on the snow, right? So I want to go a different direction and ask you directly, like, who are you off the snow?
Yeah. Well, off the snow, I'm a father. I've got a 5-year-old son. He's growing like a weed. His name's
They do
Clayton,
that.
and he's loving snowmobiles too. Oh yeah. And live out of Twin Falls, Idaho. And so a lot of people think I'm from Montana. No, I'm an Idaho boy.
Hell yeah.
Um, and currently engaged to Maddie Arduzer.
Congrats, man.
And
That's cool.
yeah. Thank you. And right now I'm building my own agency with as a captive agent for Farm Bureau here in Idaho, and selling insurance. And really, I wouldn't really call it selling. I'm helping people with insurance.
Serving.
I didn't really know a lot about it, and so I dove into it, and because it helped me a lot when I got in a wreck, and so now I'm like, you know what, I want to help people and build a business around that. So
Yeah, well, so I was gonna ask you, like, what kind of sparked that sense of direction to go into the insurance thing. And when we hung out there for a little bit at the Boise Snow Show back in October, which, side note, just because I can, I had the fastest lap time out of everybody on the racetrack that night, including you.
you did,
but
you were cooking, man.
Yeah, not by a whole lot, but I beat everyone, so it counts just by seconds at least, I guess. But when we were hanging out that night, you told me the story about your wreck, to which then was kind of a domino effect into getting so involved with the insurance stuff. So would you be open to kind of giving a brief version of kind of what happened with that wreck that led to the insurance stuff for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Christmas night of 2022, Caleb Kosterky, he had a sponsorship deal with Sharmac. They just built him a brand new trailer. I was in Twin Falls, and Sharmac is in Twin Falls, so we kind of decided, like, hey, if I pick this up and haul it to him, then we'll go out and do some riding and some filming. And it was kind of a win-win deal. And I was itching to ride and itching to do some filming. So I hooked up to his trailer, started headed for Sealy Lake, Montana, Christmas night after all the family stuff was done. And just north of Idaho Falls, hit a patch of fog. It was pretty dense, and there was a lot of moisture on the road. I thought they threw down de-icer because of how much moisture was coming up off car tires. I slowed down to about 65 mile an hour, and I hit a guardrail section probably like 3 or 4 miles north of Idaho Falls, and the truck just started swapping with the trailer, like just pitched so hard. I got it under control for a split second, and then it pitched again, shoved me in the guardrail, rode the guardrail for 167 feet. The front axle ripped out from under the truck, cab dropped onto the guardrail, flipped the truck, And the trailer was all black, came to a stop. It was black, you know, dark, foggy night. Luckily, a car behind me had seen it all go down. They got stopped, got traffic stopped. And when I came to a stop, I came into it like when the truck came to a stop, I landed in the median, in between two service roads that were underneath the freeway. Like you couldn't have landed in a more perfect spot considering the spot, like the location,
Sure.
because either way would have probably been a different story. Um, and uh, then I hooked up to, or the tow truck hooked up to the trailer. Another one had my truck. I jumped in the tow truck with the trailer. On our way back to Idaho Falls, we had to go the wrong way down the freeway and got escorted by a stater. And then we hit the median and then got going the correct way back south towards Idaho Falls.
Okay.
And when we pulled out, the tow truck driver rolled down the window and so he could see traffic coming. He pulled out, started going. Shortly after he pulled out, we get a loud bang and the truck got shoved forward and a car goes flying off to my side, upside down. Snow comes flying into my window because it's still down, and we get stopped and I run over there and we get him to shut the car off and then get him pulled out, and everyone was fine, but man, there was just two crazy wrecks in a matter of hours.
That's
And
wild.
so um, then after that, I came to a tough decision, whether or not to continue, whether or not to build like a business or do something in the summertime and work with Caleb again, because I love working there, love being a part of Proven Progression, and I'm very grateful for Caleb and everything he's offered there. Um, but I needed to make a decision, and um, ultimately I made the decision that I needed to look at the long run, not just snowmobiling, but something that would allow me to snowmobile and they would coexist with snowmobiling.
Sure.
And so I started looking into opportunities with sales. And the reason I wanted to go the sales route is I wanted to use my mind to make money, not my body. And
Yep.
then I also wanted to learn how to better talk with people. And I believe it's a valuable skill, being able to talk with people, build rapport, you know. And so I was looking for all sorts of opportunities, and finally I prayed to God, and I'm like, just, show me a sign, give me something that will allow me to help people.
Mm.
Through working with Caleb, I learned that I got a lot of fulfillment, helping people, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. Was I'd teach somebody like how to do a hop over or a bow tie, and they do it for the first time, or even ride an edge for longer than 20 feet, and you just watch their face light up, and they're just so stoked, so happy, and like that fulfillment.
Mm.
That's why I do this. That's why I chose insurance, is because I know that I can take my previous experience with what I went through and how Farm Bureau had helped me and just everything there. And now I can help educate people and help people with that same type of coverage and the same company that helped me the way that they did.
Mm.
So it kind of came full circle, a
Yeah.
little bit of jumbling around there, but ultimately I prayed to God for this opportunity, and he provided in the most incredible way. And in a short 4 months, I'm in my own agency, helping people, and that's incredible.
I find it really interesting, or almost spooky. I don't know if spooky is the best word, but how God works, the universe, whatever, whatever we want to describe it as, how things can come full circle, that things can be revealed to you. You have a desire for something, and then God shows it to you, the universe shows it to you, whatever. So
Yeah.
I find it really, really interesting, that those pretty gnarly series of events that you went through, led to, where you're at today, which is super, super awesome. So, I do want to backtrack a little bit and pick on a couple of things from your story. First and foremost, any injuries or damages to your body and your physical self, or that second person that hit you when you were in the tow truck?
Nope. I ended up with some whiplash, which didn't really show itself until like a couple days later. And it was kind of had like the vertigo going where those crystals in your
Mm,
ears are kind of out of whack. And so I'd be like walking and then all of a sudden like the ground and walls and everything would just like start doing that. And it was like
yeah.
almost nauseating. It was pretty wild, but it was just
Dang.
random. Like I had it happen like 3 times and that was it.
I mean, bro, that's pretty good that
But
that's all that the damage was from from what could have been,
yeah,
you know? That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, no kidding.
Somebody was watching over you
I,
for sure.
yeah, kind of a crazy thing too, like not body related, but damage related. Like I did $80,000 worth of damage to that roadway right there. And
Wow.
yeah, it was kind of wild, but that's a big reason why I do this is there's so many people that have like not enough coverage. And so I know I can
Yeah.
help those people by recommending better coverage with my story.
Well, I think that
So
that's
that's
just
kind of
it,
like
right?
part of the full first circle thing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that that's pretty interesting because, you know, a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know, right? It's even just like the topic of, like we were
Yeah.
talking there in Boise of like life insurance type stuff, right? Like there's so many variables with all different types of
Yeah.
insurance, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And so for you to be able to
Yeah.
utilize a pretty horrific incident that you went through, you know, you're not just giving somebody your opinion, right? You're giving them your advice because you went
Yeah.
through X thing,
Yes.
right? So
Exactly.
um, in your sales process, or what I like to say is you're not selling, you're serving, right? So in your serving process,
Hmm.
it makes it, you know, I would imagine a lot smoother to be able to highlight, you know, your experiences and the things that you went through to try to provide that insight into the trauma, if you will, and how
Yeah.
to be
Absolutely.
as best prepared to hedge against, you know, God forbid something like that happens to one of your clients or something, you know, that they can be
Absolutely.
prepared. So
Yeah.
another thing that I wanted to touch on, Levi, not to totally change the topic, but I feel that it can kind of tie into a lot of variables, whether it's work, snowmobiling, and just who you are as a human. Is you served in the military, correct?
Yep. I did. I served 4 years in the Marine Corps. Was infantry, mortarman. Was with snipers for about 9 months, and then went back to mortars. Became a forward observer, and um, yeah, pretty much did that. Did 2 deployments to Iraq. Um, kind of during the whole ISIS thing over
Mm,
there, and um, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it there.
yeah. Well, I know some people can feel weird about it, but I appreciate your service, dude. Thank you. I know some guys
Yeah,
don't like to be told that, and some do, whatever. But regardless,
yeah,
I appreciate your service. So what I want to extract out of your 4 years there, how well, first and foremost, I guess I'll ask what sparked your interest to go into the Marines in the first place?
yeah. My great grandpa, we were down in Utah, Santa Quin, Utah, visiting, and I remember sitting on the living room floor and watching like old World War II documentaries, and it was like Battle of Midway, I believe is what we were watching. And he taps on my shoulder and he's like, "You see that ship right there?" And it's one that's like in the middle of being sank. And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I was on that when they sank that." And I'm like, "Are you kidding
Dude.
me?" Like in my head, I'm like, like he's on, in a way, like he's on TV, you know,
Yeah.
in a crazy war documentary. And I'm like just sitting here, and then, I just asked some questions and kind of piqued my interest. And then, I mean, I think I was 8 at the time. And
Okay.
so ever since then, I just kind of had an interest in military, had an interest in guns, had always been interested in guns and shooting stuff. But Then my grandpa, his son, got me into hunting and took me out hunting deer, hunting elk, and um, I kind of developed an interest for trying to shoot further and further with the rifles I had. And eventually that kind of turned into a bit of a sniper fascination where I wanted to take my passion for shooting and my desire to learn long range. And I was like, well, why not combine the two and go serve my country while learning how to do that skill?
Yeah.
Um, and, get the most elite training on the planet when it comes to long range shooting and, per se. So, I had my mindset pretty early that that's what I was going to do. And when I was 17, I signed up for uh, the delayed entry program and pretty much had the ball rolling for when I graduated high school. Graduated high school, and 3 days later, I was in boot camp getting yelled at. So that was my summer vacation.
Wow. Right into the pit of fire. Dang. Okay. Um, well, again, dude, I appreciate
Yep.
your service. I
Yep.
don't want to, go too, I'm sure you probably have some experiences, especially being deployed to Iraq and whatnot, but, um, can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
I'm all for sharing. I I've learned that there's a lot of value in that. So if you got any questions, like I'm happy to answer. I feel like so many vets internalize, and it actually is better for other vets to hear it.
I wanted to touch on one point that I don't know how familiar you are with the Sled Sin Brotherhood, but we've got a handful of team riders that are veterans and have served, and there's one team rider in specific that has taken it on his shoulders to have private conversations with other veterans, because, and this makes total sense. Is I've never served, and so there's a disconnect between me
Hmm.
and between you specifically, right? As a veteran,
Yeah.
there's just a disconnect there. Good, bad,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. There's just a disconnect. And so, um, having any like PTSD or any issues, or just like the lens at which you guys look through life is just
Hmm.
it's just different than what I do, and it's not really something that I can speak to.
Yeah.
And so this specific team writer has taken it upon himself to have those private conversations that I know nothing about. It's none of my business. To have really difficult conversations, because he had mentioned to me about like some of the psychological stuff. Because he's a Marine too. Some of the psychological stuff of like, which maybe you can speak to this. But there's a level of, as men, like having to just bury any personal issues and just move forward,
Yeah.
whether it's emotions or whatnot. And so, and I'll let you speak to this. Like some people in that element can find it difficult to speak about harder issues,
Hmm.
personal things, because you guys are trained to, that shit don't matter. You got to get the job done or the mission done or whatever it may be. Is that correct in making that statement?
Yes, absolutely. Two things with that vets struggle with, especially like Marines or Army infantry, pretty much anybody that's uh, in a tough situation. It doesn't even have to be combat. It can be you're just in a tough training situation, or your unit is held to a pretty high standard and life or death. I mean, it can attest to even, law enforcement or firefighters dealing with some similarities there, where in a high stress environment, if you, especially in the military and in my experience, if you have an injury, a physical injury, you can't train. You're you're kicked, you're held on the sidelines, which means you can't do your job, which means you're just sitting there. So a lot of times it's like just suck it up. And
Sure.
so the mental side of that's the same. If you're not mentally fit to go, if you're not good to go, then you're sidelined. And so it's like you either suck it up or you just sit around. Um, and nobody wants that. And then
Yeah.
so by the time you get out, however long you serve, if that's 4 years, if that's 20 years, you develop that mindset, and it doesn't take long to develop that mindset. And it took me a few years to get past that. And it took me, I would say it took me at least 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years after I got out to really take pride in what I did when I served. Because I just didn't feel like I did enough.
Mm.
I went in there for specific things. I went in there to, one, become a sniper, which I got into sniper platoon, but I did not earn the title. I had had to re-enlist to earn that title. And then two, um, when I was in Iraq, I didn't get unleashed. We didn't have the situation where the dogs could be let out of their kennel to do their job. It was, kind of between Obama and Trump era. So, you had an election in there. One president's not going to do anything coming out of his presidency. The next one's going to be hesitant to do things until he figures out, his start of his presidency. So
Sure.
it kind of, the political game came into to effect there. So in what I envisioned was really going through the mountains of Afghanistan and, fighting the Taliban. So that's kind of what I had my heart set on going in, but you don't get to choose. Like,
Yeah.
no veteran gets to choose what they get to do in the military, where they get stationed, where, this or that. So it all comes down to chance and comes down to luck. And for a while, I held myself to that standard of what I saw someone fighting and serving and protecting our country looked like. And because I didn't achieve that standard I had in my mind, I wasn't, what I did wasn't enough. And so for a long time, I had that. And in the military, while you're in, veterans have a purpose. You're there serving your country. You have a purpose while you're in. And that's a great purpose. Like, that's a huge purpose. When you get out of the military and you hit the civilian sector, you no longer have that purpose. And you're sharing that purpose with other people who have that purpose. You get out on the civilian side, you do not. So a lot of what veterans battle is, one, feeling like they didn't do enough, or they're holding themselves to the standard that they have for what they envision is worthy. And so they don't seek VA benefits like they should. Every veteran who served their 4 years or more, go get your VA benefits. Or if you got medically discharged due to an injury, go get them. I don't care. They're there. It's a pool. It's literally allocated to all vets. And if you don't use it, then somebody who did absolutely nothing in comparison is going to go get them. There are people that went through half a boot camp and then, claim suicide or something, get out, and then um, go and claim benefits. So,
Mm.
I highly recommend it to people, and to any vet. And a lot of people, when I talk to them, like they hold themselves to that standard, and so they're not willing to do it.
Sure.
And um, you know, something that I found through insurance here and through this agency and the whole purpose thing was, I have not felt like I had a purpose since I um one left the military and started working with Caleb, and I learned that purpose is helping people. And
Sure.
so now that I'm doing that with this business, I feel an even greater sense of purpose than I have until I left the military. So
Okay.
for a lot of vets, it really comes down to finding that purpose that is close to equivalent.
That was where my next question was going to go, was how did you face that transition period and dealing with the difficulties of that? And you answered it.
Yeah.
And so let's say if somebody's listening to this, and they're searching for that right now, but they're struggling, right? How would you recommend going about to put themselves out there to discover what you did for yourself? Like
Yeah.
how they could find that for them?
Yeah. I would say get out of your comfort zone because nothing good ever comes from staying within your tight little box. Go out and talk to people, go network, open yourself up. Like people are scared to open themselves up at, because of, what other people will think about them. The moment
Yeah.
that you talk to people and start being personable with them, dude, it opens up so many doors. And you never know what somebody's going through. I'll have a conversation about myself. Somebody might see this and reach out to me and like, dude, I heard what you're saying. I feel that. And then you'll start to realize like, oh, other people are dealing with this. Like
Hmm.
when I started
You're
opening
not
up
alone.
about yeah, I was afraid to open up about depression and anxiety that I was dealing with after the Marine Corps. And then the moment that I would talk to somebody, it was like a huge relief for me. And little did I know that they're dealing with the same thing. And then the next person I talk to, they're dealing with the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
so many people are dealing with it and just internalizing. We don't even realize, like everybody, dang near. I know like maybe one or two people that I've talked to that are like, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
so when you open up like that, it's amazing the conversations you'll have.
Yeah.
And I found my faith like uh, just under 2 years ago, and since then it's been like, wow, I can open up to people, but then also tie God into this
Hmm.
and like help them with that. Like I don't I don't believe in church. Well, I don't go to church for my own personal reasons. My church is up on the mountain in God's creation, but the Bible is his word and I believe in spreading the word. So,
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
And how much of an impact has that had on you over the last 2 years since you've kind of dove into that?
Um,
Like even relating it to, and so tie this all in together. I want you to speak on two parts. Everything that you learned in the military, and then everything that you have been discovering and learning about with your faith in the last 2 years collectively, and you can answer them individually, obviously, but collectively, how have those two influences impacted who you are as a man, how you show up as a father, how you show up um, in your business, and then even how you show up on a snowmobile? Can
yeah.
you relay all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, my time in the military, that, and I guess I should start here. Once I found my faith, I started getting answers to things and I started connecting the dots in my life that things that happened that were unexplainable. And you start to kind of see like when you piece that puzzle together, you start to see the path that you've been taking on. And if you're just on this linear path, how can you help somebody when you've been on a linear path? When you've been on this roller coaster of ups and downs and you've seen like the struggles, but then when you're down in these valleys and you persevere and you push through that and um, work your way out of it, and then you fall into another valley, but then in this valley that's even lower, you find God and God helps pull you out of that. Like that's huge.
Mm.
And then when you get pulled out of that by God, but then he can through him you can see how it's all tied together.
Sure.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Like that becomes like chilling. And that's what really opened my eyes. And there'll be things like I'll call somebody and like to talk to them about insurance. And little do I know that like they're going through like the worst day of their life and they're dealing with the craziest thing. And I just have a conversation with them. Like, dude, like, all right, insurance is off the table. We're not worried about that. We're worried about you. We're worried about, let's have this 3 hour conversation, which I've done several times now,
Hmm.
and just talk to them. Been that year that, and open up and then I'm like, you know what? God has a plan. We don't know where it is. Today seems like it sucks quite a bit, but let's rely on him, ask him for help, and down the road you'll see that this is part of the path. And so now looking back on my military experience, the military showed me that I can do anything I put my mind to, just about anything. I mean, there's
Mhm.
limitations, but I can do just about anything I put my mind to. And it's also given me a way to help other people, help other vets. Like I open up in a way to veterans and to people that most veterans aren't willing to do. And it is because we're basically bred not to do that.
Sure.
We're
Yeah.
we're bred against that. So I'm like I kind of take pride in being able to kind of break that mold and help people with it.
Dude, we can wrap up the episode right there. I mean, the message and the connection of that is, so that's something that I truly believe in, what you just shared, because my own experiences and things, like, I'm to the point where, like, that's, I cannot deny those things. Right. And so it's interesting. And then one other thing I wanted you to touch on with that is how, because there's a lot of podcast listeners and there's a lot of team riders in the Sledson Brotherhood that are fathers. I'm a father myself. How do those influences in both of those lanes allow you or assist you to show up better as a father to your son?
It really pushes me to teach. It pushes me to teach him to be patient. A lot, our lives are pretty busy, especially if like you're a business owner or you know, working an extensive job that requires a lot of your time.
Hmm.
And the one thing that I've learned is that as humans, we crave answers why to things. Like if you think about it, we do.
Yeah.
And I can remember hearing, just out in public and hearing, kids ask their mom why or ask their dad why. And then you just hear, because I said so. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. And I thought about that. And I'm like, I'm an adult and I still want to know the reason why we do what we do. Like in the military, I wanted to know the reason why. And it wasn't because I was questioning, it was because I wanted to better understand our mission. And you think about it, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to tell my kid, hey, go clean your room. And then he can be like, why? It's like, well, because if you don't clean it, it's going to be a mess for one. You're going to step on your toys and break them. So, one, mess, he's like, okay, whatever. Two, oh, broken toys. I
I
don't
don't like
like that.
that. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
so then you show him the reason why and you kind of analyze. Well, then he's like, anytime you ask him after that, and sometimes he just does it himself and he cleans his room and maintains it. But when I have to ask him, there's no questions. He just does it because he
Because he
understands
understands.
the reason. Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of leadership that comes from one, the military, and two, finding your faith in God, and you can kind of decipher between the two. And in reality, like Jesus, and he's the greatest leader there ever was.
Mhm.
There was a meeting held thousands of years ago that is still one of the most talked about meetings today. And you think about that, and it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, just kind of I would say that it's really just taught me how to be patient and to help educate him so that when the world comes about, and it's also a safety reason, uh, for the reason why, but I'm just better able to guide him and let him make choices based off of education versus what someone else is telling him.
Yeah. Dude, and it's going to be interesting what the ripple effect of that is going to be on him for years to
Yeah,
come. So
yeah,
that's awesome, dude. I really appreciate you sharing kind of your mindset into that and how you apply some of the things that you learned into,
yeah.
all avenues of your life. So before we transition into the snowmobiling topic,
Yeah.
I did want to have you kind of share. So anybody that's listening to this that may potentially be interested in some insurance stuff, how they can get in contact with you. I mean, most people that are probably listening to this follow you on Instagram. I'm sure that that's one avenue. But there's definitely some business side, and then I'll get with you after this, and I'll get your contact information to put in the description below, so they can access it there. But just
Yeah.
verbally, how can people get in touch with you regarding insurance stuff?
Yeah. So one, my agency is only for Idaho, Farm Bureau's Idaho. We're working into surrounding states,
Okay,
but for right now, just licensed in Idaho. And but if you do have questions and you're outside of Idaho, feel free to ask. I'm willing to help any way I can. To reach me, you can either message me on Instagram, Facebook. Instagram's 208 Adrenaline, or you can text me, call me at my personal 208-420-3634.
dang, dude, dropping the phone number just like that, huh?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Like I said, I will. For those of you that are maybe listening and driving, you can come back to this later. I'll put all that contact information in the description of the episode as well too, so they can get in contact with you there.
Awesome.
Um, so let's talk about sleds and snowmobiling for a second.
Yeah.
You are coming off of a rather interesting weekend. I saw some
Yeah.
stories on your Instagram as well as Justin Ponzer's Instagram as well, with some flashing red and blue lights.
Yes.
That it seems like a situation kind of escalated to the point where it was required to call in a helicopter for Maddie. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
It is. Yeah.
So I guess take us through what happened and why
Hmm.
you ended up making that phone call to the chopper.
Yeah. Well, we were rallying all day and pulling some sweet lines through the trees, pulling some sweet lines on some open slopes and cornices and stuff. And we ended up having a sled go down. And so two guys went to limp that out. Gus and Justin did. And while they were limping out, we figured, all right, well, let's just play our way out. And so we're playing our way out there in Preston, Idaho. And we just got out of pretty much all of the terrain, like that was any angle to it. We got down to the flats, and Maddie, she was pulling off some crazy good side hills, good climbs, like really advanced in her tree riding. It was pretty cool to watch. And the easiest maneuver of the day, I would say, she went to get it up on edge in a flatter spot to go around a tree. And when she went to get it on edge, her back locked up, and she described it as taking like a cleaver right into her lower back or something like that. And um, she called me back on the radio, and so I get back to her, and I'm like, what's going on? And she's having a hard time talking, and she's like, my back, it's all locked up. And I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And it took two of us to get her off the snowmobile. We assessed the situation, kind of moved just a little bit. After she explained what happened, I knew that it wasn't like, it didn't sound like skeleton because she didn't take any blows. She didn't take, anything like that. So but let's be, nice and gentle and kind of moving around. And so she moved around. We, kind of stretched things out and see if it was like a cramp or whatnot. And nothing was helping, nothing. So we decided to try and get her out, see if she could get on her snowmobile and at least ride, because we were right almost to the trail and it was pretty flat, easy going there. And she could barely go, like she could barely pull on the handlebars or anything. So getting her out via sled was not an option at that point. And we are sitting at about 4:15, 4:30 in the afternoon, and I kind of was like, all right, we're running out of daylight. I know that some areas they won't fly a chopper once it's dark. And I'm like, and then sometimes they won't fly a chopper until search and rescue gets there. So I was like, okay, you know what? We need to make that call. We need to make that call now because otherwise we may not have a choice.
Mm.
And being the trail that we came in was really rough, low snow conditions. So it was rock, ice. A toboggan's not going to be an option. Um, and so I went, we looked for a spot to set her, start a fire, and then call a bird to. And we found a good spot. Trent and um, oh, his face and his name. It'll come to me. I will
No
say
worries.
it before the end.
No worries.
um, they were huge help in getting a fire going, and then we made laps in a circle. So we drove our sleds out to the open spot, made sure that there was no trees for at least 100 meters in either direction, and then drove in a big circle and made that circle go inward until we filled up that entire circle, and basically like the giant bullseye for a chopper coming in, undeniable. And so then
How
I
did you come up with
beelined
that
it.
idea? Sorry to cut you off,
Uh,
but I've never
oh,
heard of somebody doing that before.
yeah, that's something that we did. So, the last couple years, I had been actually contracting with Tyler's Backcountry Awareness and helping train Green Berets how to ride and operate snowmobiles in a winter warfare environment.
Okay.
So that's the procedure that we used for calling in helicopters and creating a landing zone for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, that's actually where I learned that technique
Pretty
by and
interesting.
large.
I've never
Yeah,
heard that before, right? So I thought
yeah,
I would extract the reasoning why. So okay, so
yeah.
you guys made that bullseye, and then what from there?
Then I grabbed the pin location off of Onyx, so I grabbed the coordinates there of exactly where the landing zone was. Um, they got us fire started for her, got her set up there. I beelined it for service. I tried using SOS on the iPhone and it was very spotty. Tried using the SOS text and it's through third party, so that was just slow. And spending up resources at that point was a no go.
Yeah.
Due to time, we had a Garmin InReach with us. Due to time, I opted for going for cell service so that I could have vocal communication and relay information as quickly as possible. So I beelined it for service, got service, and then called and let them know. I'm like, hey, here's the situation. We're advanced level riders. The trail that we came up is I do not advise a toboggan or search and rescue trying to come up that trail unless absolutely necessary. Um, and then I recommended like, hey, we have an LZ set up, a landing zone set up. We've got coordinates for that landing zone. She's right next to it. Um, Highly advise bringing a helicopter if possible. And so then I just kind of laid it out that way. And then Gus and Justin, we made them aware, and they were coming back up, two upping, so that they could ride her sled out if needed. And by the time Gus got up to me, he got a text from one of the other guys that the helicopter had arrived. So we beelined it back to her to the helicopter. And I guess it came pretty shortly after I left them. So they
Mm,
got a helicopter spun up quick. But
that's
I
good.
think if you need one and you know you need one, you can lay out those important information because most of the time they're gonna get search and rescue in there. And I love search and rescue because they're all volunteer and they're just there to help usually. And but sometimes, as backcountry riders with a lot of experience or whatnot, being able to relay the information of like, hey, this is a helicopter situation, that might help with not having to wait hours for search and rescue to get spun up and
Mm,
everything like that for that situation.
sure. So you mentioned some of the training stuff that you were doing with the Green Berets, but speak
Mhm.
on some of the other experiences that you've had, whether through Tyler's Backcountry or things at Proven Progression or whatever experiences that you have had that led to your stock of knowledge to make that decision of the story that you just described, right? Because a lot of people may not have the experience and, what you just
Yeah.
described and I hope Maddie's okay at this point. Is she doing better
She
now or?
is, her back is still locked up. So X-rays look good, but we don't have an MRI yet. We're thinking
Okay.
we might need to do an MRI. She did EMF today with a chiropractor of mine, the electromagnetic pulses. Um, I think it's EMF. I might have said that wrong. Uh, but it basically like helps break down those tense tissues and get this thing to relax, like a deep tissue massage, but without the invasiveness of pressure and stuff like that.
Okay.
But right now we've got a walker for her, and she needs help, kind of getting around the house at all.
Sure.
So
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope she
yeah,
recovers and heals up quickly. I want to see her back
yeah,
on the sled.
yeah,
um,
absolutely. She's got a
so
lot of season left.
yeah, yeah. And it better start snowing here too, real quick.
Yeah.
But so the series of those events, right, of what you just explained there, um, was relatively smooth.
Yeah.
And so like speak to some of your experiences that led to your influence on even the decision making, the time awareness, like
hmm
what are some things over time, whether military related, just in your life, that you have gathered to lead to that moment to execute.
Yeah.
Sounds like you executed pretty flawlessly given the circumstances.
Yeah. Really, it just comes down to what is our situation? What are our problems? And how do we overcome them? And so, um, one, the situation was she's unable to ride out. I'm unable to ride her out and without risk of potentially making it worse. So the bodily injury aspect, like, yes, you have the financial aspect of a bird. A helicopter can be pretty expensive, and we have an Air St. Luke's
Unless
membership,
you have the
but
right insurance, right?
right, but for
Even then,
even then, yeah, it just it's kind of you just got to make sure you have like the right stuff in place for those things. Obviously, we have an
sure,
Air St. Luke's membership, which is good for Air St. Luke's and some of the partnering helicopters. We're not sure if the helicopter that picked her up was partnering though, so we might have those costs to deal with on our end. So we'll see.
copy.
We'll know when that comes in. But um, as far as the rest of the decision making and everything, one, we don't want to stay the night. Two, we know that search and rescue take a while. We're willing to if we have to. Three, we know that the trail was pretty dang rough. So um, even if search and rescue did get there, is it going to be beneficial um, to have them help get her out or not? And so, really, it kind of comes down to putting in the seriousness of, hey, like this is this is the experience, this is the knowledge, um, and highly recommending a helicopter. I think played into it, and being able to like talk about a landing zone, having it prepped and nothing around, and then having coordinates, like just showing that you're knowledgeable and you are experienced in the backcountry, I think really comes into play. And the more information you
Sure.
give them, the better.
Yeah.
Because if you just tell them like, hey, we got a lady, she's injured in the backcountry, we need help getting her out, they're probably going to send search and rescue and they're going to spin up. And,
Yeah.
they make that call. They try to get, you know, anyone who's available, hasn't been drinking, has, any of those situations. They get to the parking lot, they come up with a game plan. There's a lot of time involved in the planning of going in there and what they're going to do. And then by the time they get there, which will probably be several hours later, um, you're going to be looking at pretty much a full night of trying to extract her.
Yeah.
Um, when a helicopter is so much more painless, a lot less risky.
hmm So after going through all that, looking back on it now, is there anything that you would have done differently? Like maybe mistakes that you might have made or anything? Anything you learned from it?
Um, yes, putting uh my warming layers in a dry bag. So my extra layers in a dry bag. I had them in my backpack, which usually stays pretty dry, but we took out the camera to film and laid the camera bag in like my camera sleeve right here. Laid this in the snow and it picked up a bit of moisture. When I put it back in my backpack, it got my warming layers
Mm,
a little wet. So it made, for personal reasons, that a little cold. Um,
sure,
and then the extra layers that I did have, if I were to help keep her warm throughout the night, I would have kept those a little wet. So
sure. Good
uh,
observation.
definitely that. I think, I mean, that's pretty much. I don't think there could have been much else.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, dude, I appreciate you willing to share that story. I mean, I hope
yeah,
that there's something that somebody listening can extract from that and apply if they're ever in a situation.
yeah.
Um, so if we continue the thread of talking about snowmobiling stuff, how did snowmobiling first like become part of your life?
Um, it became part of my life before my memory kicked in. I was I
Okay.
w- my dad was getting into the sport when in his 20s, in his early 20s, and he fell in love with it quite a bit, and so he had me on the front of the snowmobile when I was in diapers and going up mountains and stuff, whatnot. And so ever since I was a kid, it was a part of my life.
Hmm.
And we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but he worked really hard for everything that we had. Did a lot of overtime, and the overtime was pretty much to pay for the fun things because,
Sure.
it's just how it is. Especially with blue collar. And so he worked a lot of overtime, worked hard for those things. And my first snowmobile was a 1980 Skidoo Citation with metal skis. And I thought that was the coolest freaking thing ever. I was like,
Heck yeah.
I love this thing. And after that sled, he would find the next deal and he would flip them. So you would find one
Sure.
that needed work, and so then you would do the work for it. And he was really good about finding those deals. Like, and so you take, a sled, paid 500 or started with $100, then flip that into a $600 sled, and then flip that into an $1,800 sled, and then, kept flipping sleds each year. So every
Hmm.
year I was on a different snowmobile,
Oh, that's
and,
cool.
flipped them basically to a almost all the way flipped to a 2011 Skidoo 800, and it was like
Dang.
brand new at that time. He bought it brand new from the dealership, and he told me, he's like, "This is you and your mom's snowmobile. It is your mom's, but if you keep your grades up, I will take you out and you can ride it." I was like, "Deal!"
Sweet
Like,
deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
sweet deal. And I knew how hard he worked for it, so I couldn't believe it. I was like, just so grateful. And so, like, and every fall we're at the dealership, we're buying all the latest sled necks, the Boondockers, 509, all of that. And in I remember in 2012, I think it was winter of 2011 and 2012, I all I wanted for Christmas was 509 goggles and a 509 helmet. I was like, I want the
Mm.
Sinister goggles and 509 helmet that had like evolution on it, like going from a Neanderthal all the way to a snowmobiler pulling a wheelie, like I was like,
Hmm.
that's what I want. And so then throughout high school, I had 509 Volume 7, and I'd be playing that in my Xbox every night before bed. Like I'd just lay there and just watch it and fall asleep to it. And I watched it so many
Yeah.
times that I burned the disc out and had to go get another disc.
Heck yeah, dude.
So the passion started early. Then when I went to the Marine Corps, I kind of had to, put that on hold. I got like two
Sure.
rides in while I was in the Marine Corps, and then um, when I got out, the first thing I thought of was like, I gotta get a job that'll pay for snowmobiling. Like I want to snowmobile again. And
Yeah.
so I got into line work. I went to line school and then started contracting that fall. Um, and picked up a brand new sled and haven't looked back. I've just been getting more and more passionate about the sport, more involved.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
At what moment did it kind of discontinue being casual, right? Like in the sense of the idea of like gaining sponsorships and like creating a name for yourself in the industry, all the way up till like working with Caleb, which we'll
Mhm.
touch on that here in a minute. But at what point did it like discontinue being casual and you're like, I really want to create something here with this for myself?
Yeah, I would say it started as a childhood dream. Um, as a kid, I really wanted, like I looked up to the guys that were in the films and was like, 'cause I mean, I watched them to death. That was
Yeah.
everyone watches their football games and stuff like that. And to me, it was like, well, I'm gonna watch snowmobiles.
Yeah.
But-
Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
So you knew from kind of that moment burning the CD in your Xbox, like you
yeah,
you knew in that moment that you really wanted to take this as far as you could or see what you
yeah,
could turn it into.
yeah. I knew
Okay.
that I always wanted that. I wanted to be that good of a writer. That's
Mm,
what I wanted, is I wanted to be that good of a writer that I could be as good as the guys in the films. And so that to me was something that I was pushing for. And it wasn't until I got back into sledding post Marine Corps, I started riding with friends, local friends. My dad had kind of moved away from snowmobiling and gotten into side by sides and was doing that a whole lot more. So I was like, okay, and now I need to find people to ride with. And
yeah.
so I started going with some local friends, and about end of February, it's like you call people up and they're like, nah, I'm good. Like snow's not good, this or that, or like, no, I'm busy, or it's dirt bike season now, or
Yeah.
stuff like
Sure.
that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but there's snow and I still want to ride. So I started reaching out to other people, and I started a little bit on Instagram, not much. And then I started meeting some guys out of Utah and started networking with them through social media. And I was like, holy crap. And I remember Ken and Jepson, he's down in Logan area, and he commented on my face or on my Instagram post, and he's like, dude, like we should go ride sometime if you're ever in Utah. And I'm like, okay. And at the time I had like 200 followers or something like that, or maybe like 100 followers. And I look at his page
Mhm.
and he's got like 1,000 or 1,100. I'm like, holy crap, he's got so many followers. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I hit him up, and yeah, dude, I learned through riding with him, I met other people too. And then riding with them, I met other people. And so then it became like this network. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then it's like, and it all stemmed from that one comment. And so then I
Wild.
started like, reaching out to people, like, it's like if I couldn't get anybody to ride over here, I'm like, all right, over in Wyoming, who wants to ride in Wyoming? And so I'd reach out to people over there. And then it kind of snowballed. And then I realized, like, holy crap, with social media, you can literally build a network of riders. And at any point, if the snow's bad here or you can't get somebody to go here, you could go over here and ride. So I was willing to
Yeah.
travel. I'm like, I'm doing it. Um,
Heck yeah.
and then it was pretty shortly after I discovered that Caleb opened up his clinics for the first time with proven progression. And so I went to like the very first, no, it was the second advanced clinic. He had one the weekend before. So I went to that advanced clinic, and um, that same year, he, or that same year, ran in the same problem of like, I can't get anybody to go ride. I want to ride this weekend. And I reached out to him, and I think it was in March. And I was like, hey, I can't get anybody to go ride. Do you want to go ride? Like, I know it's a long shot. And he's like, well, we're actually going to Cook City to build jumps. You're welcome to come. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm there. I've never shoveled jumps like that, but I'm doing it. And so
Yeah.
that kind of opened up the door. And while we were out there, I was just so stoked on building jumps and hitting jumps for the first time. And he's like, hey, I've got like next year, I've got a jump clinic that I'm offering. He's like, you're welcome to come out, and, like, you don't have to pay, but if you'll, help out here and there. And it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I would love to. And so I just like stayed up on that. I never let him forget it. And I would
Yeah.
bring it up. And then when it came about, I was like, all right, when do you need me there? And so,
Yeah.
and then so I showed up and I just busted ass. I was like, I helped any way I could, shoveled,
Sure.
helped, teach any way I could, just jumped in. And that opened up more and more opportunities. Basically tried to create a position for myself. And, in hoping, like, I mean, I was just grateful for that chance.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
yeah.
And then how did it become revealed to have an opportunity to work at Proven Progression?
Um,
How'd that come together?
Basically, I had fallen into a position where I was pretty depressed, pretty upset with my job. I was a lineman for Idaho Power here in Idaho. Worked really hard to get there, and my passion for snowmobiling quickly became a conflict between
Mhm.
my foreman and myself, and um, it kind of spread from him to the other foreman within the area and the other linemen, and so it became more of an environment that I didn't want to be involved in because
Copy.
I did not want to wake up and go to work to that, um, where my passion is a conflict with my work. And so,
Yeah.
and basically, I decided that I was gonna call it quits, and so I quit. And Caleb's like, "Hey, I'm looking for, you know something more full time if you're willing to do that." And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I'll do it. And so the first year working for him full time, I would uh, help him do clinics on the weekends. And then the night of so Sunday night, when we finished up with the clinic, I would drive uh, and go meet the guys with the Green Berets, and I would help the Green Berets all week and then finish up with them and then drive and meet the clients for the next clinic. And I did that for a month straight. I think I was on the snow for 23 days straight and
Jeez.
worked for 23 days straight the first day, or the
Wow.
first year.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so speak to like your experience working with Caleb and some of the things that you learned. Obviously you spoke earlier in the pod of the fulfillment. That's definitely something huge that you gained.
Yeah.
But how did, maybe speaking to like your writing ability,
Yeah.
what was some of the influence of, writing with, um, as we all know, Caleb is very elite level
Hmm.
when it comes to the skill set on the sled. So being able to ride with somebody like that day after day,
Yeah.
what were some things that you extracted from that experience and applied it to your own skill set?
Yeah. I would say I didn't progress as much as I could have if I'd applied more, like learning myself how to ride during clinics. I was so focused on being the best that I could at what he needed for that position that
Okay.
I wasn't
Yep.
really focused on pushing my skill set and learning as much as I could have. On In all honesty, I was more worried
Hmm.
about like, all right, do we have everybody? Does anybody need help? Giving ski poles here. teaching
Sure.
here, helping people here, whatever. Customer service kind of came first.
Yep.
But then when we went riding for fun, I was pushed to, I mean, I was pushed every single time we went riding, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, just even getting into the zones. I rode a 9R 146 with him up in Revelstoke, and they were all on boosted sleds for a majority of the time, like boosted 155s, boosted 146, and I'm on a 9R 146, and I'm trying to get everywhere that they're going. Uh,
Yeah.
that taught me a lot.
I'm sure it did.
I mean, mandatory hopovers, mandatory downhill hopovers, mandatory reentries, like, I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Mandatory bow ties to keep from being stuck. But watching
Sure.
him ride, it doesn't make sense some of the time because
Okay.
he'll pull off a line, and videos are crazy. In person is like, what? Like, you could do that on a snowmobile? Like, that's a
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
he's pushed himself to a point where he has to look for those things that, one, stimulate him, but two, are different. Like, he's constantly looking for
Yeah.
something different. And so as you progress in your riding, like, your lines change, right? Like,
Hmm.
you're no longer looking for that, how can I hit this hill and high mark? Where am I going to turn out on this high mark? Now it's like, okay, I'm going to try to get through these trees. And then now that's kind of boring. So now it's like, okay, now I want to do a hop over here around this tree, a hop over here around this tree, do a bow tie in between those trees. And like, you start to look for those challenges. And
Yeah.
when you ride with somebody who's like that, they're looking for challenges that we're not even on the radar for.
Yeah.
So it's
Sure.
like, it's really cool to watch that. And then it opens up your mind a little bit, like, is that line, can I do that line? Like, you
Yeah.
start to develop that. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just got a notification from Jeff. We're getting I don't know if it's his battery or his memory on his camera is getting close for the time limit. But
Okay.
so I want to evolve into kind of our last topic here,
Yeah.
which is based off of more of the conversation that we had in Boise. But so in total, how many years did you work with Caleb?
Uh, 2 full seasons, and then
Okay.
part of another season.
Okay. So then this season right now is the first season since
Yeah.
discontinuing with Caleb. Okay.
Yes.
So I want you to kind of shine a light on whatever you're willing to share.
Yeah.
But standing there in the parking lot with you after we got done go-karting, I think it was cold, I remember, and we sat
Yeah.
there or stood there for quite a while
Uh-huh.
in a lot of really good conversations. And you were talking about, kind of the vision of things that you're wanting to create now that,
Yeah.
you're essentially free for your seasons now moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And some of the things that you wanted to do in kind of like your local area, some events. So kind of speak to like what does the future hold for Levi and some of the things that you got cooking up and what's to
Yeah.
come.
This year is a little challenging because we don't really have the snow to do the events.
I know, dude.
So it's like,
So side note. So side note, just because I know you're affiliated with them and you're wearing their hat. So
yeah.
this weekend is the Backwoods giveaway retreat in
Oh
McCall
man.
that I do
Yeah.
with Ponzer and Jaden Ballard.
Yeah.
And bro, it's like 40 degrees and sunny, and there ain't much snow.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to reference that. We're trying to like come up with things to do for the event, I mean, it'll be fun no matter what we come up with,
Yeah.
but this whole challenge of the lack of snow is honestly probably something that we don't even need to touch on because everybody's feeling the pain,
Yeah.
except for some places like Alaska and the Midwest are doing all right, I think. But
Yeah.
anyways, sorry to cut you off,
You're
but I
good.
just wanted to reference the
Yeah.
the lack of snow for trying to do events and stuff isn't
Yeah.
ideal, but
Absolutely. That's tough. But ultimately, some ideas that I have cooking up, we're wanting to work with the Idaho State Snowmobile Association, which they basically head helping keep like clubs in the area like informed. funding, like when you buy a club membership that participates in the State Snowmobile Association, half of that for Idaho at least, half of that membership actually goes to the ISSA, which then helps fight for legal defense. So it
Yep.
helps keep our lands open. It's not so much for the trails. The trails are just access, and the trails are a good way for us to access those zones way back where in some locations. But it's a way to keep track of how many snowmobilers do we have? How big is our voice? Because when a land closure comes down, and one thing that we need to also consider is if we're trying to hold off telling people about zones and keeping people out of certain zones, one thing to consider is that zone is now at more risk for being shut down because it doesn't look like anybody uses it. There's no snowmobilers there because we're
Yep.
keeping it a secret. It's our honey hole.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
challenge you to open up that idea. It's like, okay, let's invite people into these zones. Is it going to blow it out? Is there more tracks? Yes. What does that do? We got to be more creative to find not track zones or untracked zones.
I, sure. And it's better to have the access altogether be removed from you, and then you can never ride your honey hole ever again.
Exactly.
So valid point. I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's actually what we're seeing in that McCall area. There's a specific area that's been opened up to some miners, and it looks like a minor inconvenience to a few people that they're shutting down the road access for snowmobilers and skiers because it doesn't look like there's that many people that use it. Now, if there was a whole snowmobile parking lot because more people are aware of it and it's an awesome riding zone, I've ridden there. But if more people were aware of it and went there, you're not going to shut that down so easily because there's more of a voice.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's something I want to keep, and that's a concept that I'm trying to open people up to. It's like, hey, like I get it. I've got my honey holes, and now I'm like, I'm not gonna try to hide these, but I'm also not gonna blow it out if certain locals really are the ones that have shown me, if that makes sense.
I'm tracking.
But
Yep.
it is a challenge to navigate, morally, like, but um just something I want people to kind of keep in mind and ponder upon. The other thing is, where is the state of our snowmobile community? Where do our snowmobilers come from? And I think about my past, and I think about like guys like Caleb. Like we all started out on just itty bitty snowmobiles, and our dads taking us out when we were just kids. But as generations develop, there's less and less of those kids getting involved in the sport. It's grown away from the family sport because one, the snowmobiles are now more expensive, and a lot of people use that as an excuse. You can still go get an old snowmobile and have a blast on it. You don't need a new
Yep.
one.
Nope.
But because the new ones are so advanced and capable, it's harder to get the family to go to the places that these new ones can go. So if you buy a brand new snowmobile that's $20,000 or so, 15 to $20,000, and go ride with your friends, it's kind of hard to make that time commitment and that money commitment to bring your family when it's a lot more stress and a lot more pain to get them to go riding and not have the same fulfillment while out in the backcountry with your buddies, like that same excitement
Yeah.
per se.
Sure. Hmm.
So trying to bring basically that culture back, like, hey, like how cool is it to have a little kid ripping around on a 12200? Like, so creating one of the things that we're wanting to do is create a family event where over here guys are building jumps, hucking their meat, and doing some cool stuff. You got a warming hut. Warming hut, the club is selling hamburgers and coffee and stuff from. And then over here we've got a kiddie track that's been cut out with a groomer or a cat, where
Hmm.
kids could just do laps and laps and laps. And then over here, you got guys that want to drag race and do hill climbs, climbing the hills. So if you have those type of events all within eyesight of the
Yeah.
lodge or of a warming hut, like kids are going to get exposed to the jumping. People who aren't into jumping are going to see it and think it's cool and watch. the people that love jumping are going to be doing it because jumping's fun and
Yep.
it's a good time. Kind of like the sled fest out in Cook City, right? Like entire families come out to watch people huck their meat off jumps and then go ride.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
kind of trying to create something like that, an event like that, and really to cultivate that mindset of like, hey, let's get the family going. And then, keeping alcohol to an absolute minimum because
Sure.
it has to be a family environment, it has to be safe. So there's going to have to
100%.
be like a law enforcement presence and just make sure that that's kind of frowned upon at events like that.
Hmm.
I think that's really important. I'm all for drinking, just not on the mountain.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then the other side is um, creating events that get general public exposed to snowmobiling. So having like we're seeing our snow shows on the west kind of they're not what they were. We used to have like the big snowmobile expo in West Yellowstone. I remember that as a kid, thought it was so cool. Well, now that's gone and we have the Snow West shows and those are awesome and it's great. Like I want those to grow and continue. But we
Yeah.
also need something big like HayDays. We need, something over here on the East Coast or on the West Coast that gets general people out of their homes and gets kids exposed to a sport. You get a kid that hops on a 120 even a big snowmobile, and the family's not into snowmobiling, but he looks up at mom and dad's like, I want one of
I
these.
want
This is
one.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
then dad's thinking in his mind, he's like, he starts kind of envisioning what does that look like? It's like, yeah, that would be cool. Like, this is
Yeah.
fun. This is, now you got a whole family of potentially going out and looking for used sleds or something or buying sleds, or they're going to the swap meet at the event and
Yep.
picking up sleds and gear for the family. It's like,
Yep.
that's how we grow our sport. And when we grow our sport, we grow our voices. We increase the support for aftermarket companies. We increase the support for brands, and we no longer see these brands struggling to make it in the industry. And it creates
Yeah.
more opportunity for, you know, businesses like yours, like Sled Send, creates opportunity
Hmm.
for a lot of things when you
Huge
increase.
ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How do you in like a sentence or two, how do you solve for having a West Coast heydays?
well, we started
How
it.
do we create that?
We started it.
Talking about it, right?
Yeah. We started my local grass drags or my local snowmobile clubs had a grass drags for over like 20 or 30 years.
Hmm.
And I went to them with this idea 2.5 weeks before their grass drags. And I was like, hey, what if we rebranded this, changed the name and marketed it? And then let's see what we can do in 2.5 weeks. And so they were all for the idea. They were all for the vision. And in 2.5 weeks, we doubled the participation of the event. So we rebranded it from the Magic Valley Grass Drags to Tater Days. It's
Yep.
Idaho. Tater Days.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yep.
And so
Hmm.
um, we doubled the size. So we had probably like 11 or 1,200 people show up. And the year before was, I think, like 400, 430.
Dang.
And then we
Okay.
we had 50% more racers. We went from like 108 to like 161 or 62 racers show up.
Nice.
Uh,
Heck yeah.
Dustin Pancheri with Climb, he showed up with the whole Climb setup. Cody, um, president of Rimshaw, Cody Spencer, he showed up with his family and he raced, and Dustin raced, and um, BRP showed up with Can-Am, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Man, it was really cool to see how much it could grow in 2.5 weeks, and it did.
Dude, I remember you telling me that when we were at Boise. So you did that like a week or two before the Boise Snow Show?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
No,
it
no,
was
no,
right
no.
there.
It
No.
was it would have been a couple weeks before.
A couple weeks.
Yeah, a
Okay.
couple weeks
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm sure that what you achieved in those 2 weeks, and then what the success that came from that event, I'm sure that that probably created its own ripple effect
Yeah.
and maybe changed some people's perspective of like, oh man, we might have something here.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the conversations that you're doing or actions that you're taking to maybe even double, triple, or beyond that for well, I guess this year now, 2026, but this coming fall?
So there's a couple things, and it depends on what we want to do as a snowmobile community as a whole. So two things: we need to increase club participation. It's not what it used to be. We're
Yeah.
pushing away from that. We're trying to create,
Which is a whole other conversation
yeah,
that we could have, but yeah.
yeah. So creating youthful club events that people like myself would want to attend, like
Yeah.
a sled fest style event would be so cool. Like it's basically a party with adrenaline packed on the mountain. But now we're creating it so that kids can get exposed to that, so that we're cultivating the
Right.
future, um,
Yep.
and educating. So what that does is that helps increase the funding for the event, and then compounding the working with the club to compound the event. So each year we reinvest a little bit into making it grow and grow and grow. And then
Mhm.
obviously like outside help is huge. So maybe trying to get additional funding, additional sponsors, um, stuff like
Yep.
that, so that we can add things like more bathrooms, add a freestyle event, hire Octane Addictions to come out and throw down a show. It's Halloween in that time frame. So I think incorporating a Halloween themed event with trunk or treat set up between all the racers and
Yeah.
the swap meet, increasing the swap meet, just creating an event uh, that families want to bring their kids to that aren't even into power sports. Like we want to
Yeah.
capture the whole market. We don't want to capture just the power sports market. You capture
Right.
everybody, and now you're growing your power sports industry, and
Dude.
that's what we need.
Dude. Incredible. I would really love to dissect like your thought process on how you got to this point and the creation of this. However, we are getting cut on time.
No worries.
So I wanna wrap with this, dude. With whether it's that event specifically or anything else that you have going on, if somebody's listening to this right now, or watching this and that speaks to you or you want to get involved, 208 Adrenaline on Instagram, reach out to Levi, and see, what kind of involvement you can get to. And then I'll leave you with this. I know that I'm not from Idaho, but I'm not too far from you here in Eastern Oregon. So at whatever capacity that myself or the brand of Sledson can help leverage in any form or any manner at whatever capacity within doing something like that, or another style event, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm not saying that just because we're on the podcast, but I am involved and help host and sponsor a handful of events each year. We do a big kids ride up in Washington. Last year there was like 122 kids. I get involved in a handful of things. And so in the future, at whatever point, at whatever capacity, I am here to assist in any form, to allow you to leverage what I have built and whatever, to help in any manner, dude. You have my willingness and assistance. Just let me know.
Sick, man. I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, of course. Well, I just got the 1 minute finger from Jeff. I think the memory, I think the memory on the board is coming to an end. So let's wrap this up. Levi, I really, really appreciate your time to come on here and share a wealth of knowledge and some of your experiences. I do not foresee as to why we should not do a part 2 in the future with you. I think that there's a lot more depth of conversations within those topics that you shared that we can, go further on. So hopefully in part 2, we can do it in person. And if we could swing it to where like we could go ride for the day and then do a podcast at night, that'd be even doper. But I appreciate you, man, and thank you for being here.
I appreciate you too, and thanks for having me on. It's awesome.
Yeah.